All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about squat depth. So keeping in mind that everybody is a little bit different. Everyone has different body proportions, different joint anatomies. So perfect form or perfect depth for you is not necessarily going to look the same as perfect form for somebody else. So keep that in mind and try not to compare yourself as you are thinking about these things. For your average kind of healthy person with no injuries or no real anatomy limitations, a good goal to have is to be able to squat to parallel. So what that looks like is being able to squat to a depth where your thighs are parallel to the floor. Of course, anything deeper than that is perfectly okay, but parallel is kind of a good place to be just for kind of overall standard of depth. So if you're a person who wants to increase their squat depth, I'm going to talk about 3 different things that you can play around with to try to help with that. All right, so number 1 is very, very simple. You can just play around a little bit with how wide your feet are and exactly where your toes are pointed. So this has to do with how our femur or thigh bone fits into our hip socket. It is a ball and socket joint, but it's not perfectly round, it's not perfectly smooth, it doesn't move in whichever way we want it to. So you may want to play around a little bit with this. So you could try feet in narrow and toes pointed a little more straight forward and squatting from there. You could try bringing your feet out a little bit, pointing your toes out a little more and squatting from there. Important thing to keep in mind here as you are playing around with this, you always want to make sure that your knees are moving in the same direction as your toes. So whichever way your toes are pointed, that is always the direction that your knees should move. And keep in mind also, it is perfectly okay for your knees to go past your toes when you squat. They don't have to, but it's very, very okay. So play around with that a little bit. There's no perfect test that is going to tell us that you are better off with the narrow stance, you're better off with the wider stance. Just something that you need to play around with and figure out where you feel strongest and where you're able to go deepest. All right, so the second thing that you can work on to try to help with your squat depth is your actual hip mobility. So all kinds of different, like literally thousands of different drills that you can do to increase your hip mobility. I'm just going to show you 2 of my favorites. So number 1 is coming down into child's pose. So knees as wide as you're comfortable going. And what we want to do is just kind of rock back and forth. So rocking in and out of child's pose. Again, you're going to want to find your comfy spot here with exactly how wide your knees are on the floor. And you may start out only being able to rock back just slightly, and then slowly you may find you're able to increase and come way back. So that's mobility drill number 1. Mobility drill number 2 is a weighted low squat hold. So you can load these up. I've got a kettlebell here. You can use a dumbbell, you can use a medicine ball, whatever you would like. You're going to hold that weight in front of your torso. You're just going to come into your low squat hold and just kind of hang out there. You can rock around a little bit. You want to make sure your heels and toes stay planted on the floor, but that weight is just going to help to kind of push you deeper into that squat. All right, so the third thing that you can work on that may be limiting your squat depth is your ankle mobility. So just to kind of illustrate this, right now, standing up nice and tall, my ankle joint is at roughly 90 degrees here, so nice and square. As I squat down deep and my knees travel forward and I'm coming deeper and deeper into the squat, that angle is getting much smaller. So now at the very bottom of my squat, I'm at about 45 degrees here. So if you are unable to get to that kind of ankle mobility position down here, that's absolutely going to limit your squat depth. So what you can do to increase your ankle mobility, I'm going to show you some knee drives. So you're going to come down on one knee. You want to start at roughly 90 degrees here. And then what we're going to do is keeping the heel planted on the floor. It's very, very important. Keep the heel planted on the floor. And we're going to slowly push that knee forward until we can't keep the heel down anymore. And we're just going to kind of hang out there for a couple seconds, come back, push the knee forward again. Again, we're just kind of slowly trying to increase that mobility of driving the knee forward while the while the heel stays on the floor. Now you can also do this if you're getting really good at it and really comfortable with it. Add some weight to the top of your knee as you're driving down. That'll just give a little more pressure to get you into that position. In the meantime, a quick fix if ankle mobility is limiting your squat depth would be to elevate your heels. So you can grab a plate or 2 plates or something that's an inch or 2, heels onto those plates, toes onto the floor, and then we're going to squat from that position. So what we've done here by elevating the heels is we've taken away the requirement. So our ankle doesn't have to get into that deeper position if our heels are elevated. So hope hope you found those helpful. As always, let me know if you have any questions or comments.